What if I told you that the most shocking moment from the final Raw before WrestleMania 42 had nothing to do with a brawl, a sneak attack, or a surprise return? What if the moment that changed everything was simply one man standing in the middle of a ring and telling the truth? Because that is exactly what happened, and if you think you already know the story, I promise you, you do not even know the half of it. Welcome back to Wrestling Juice, the channel where we go deeper than the highlights, deeper than the hot takes, and deeper than the surface-level recaps that everybody else is giving you. I am so glad you are here today, because what went down on the final Monday Night Raw before the grandest stage of them all is something we are going to be talking about for a very long time, and I want to make sure you fully understand why this moment matters as much as it does. Let us set the scene. Sacramento, California. The Golden One Center packed wall-to-wall with fans who had been waiting for this night for weeks. The go-home edition of Monday Night Raw before WrestleMania 42, and the electricity in that building was unlike anything we have felt in a long time. This was supposed to be the final chapter of one of the most bitter, most personal, most emotionally raw feuds that professional wrestling has produced in recent memory. Weeks of brutal attacks. Weeks of vicious words cutting deeper than any steel chair ever could. Weeks of CM Punk systematically trying to destroy Roman Reigns not just physically, but psychologically, going after everything that Roman holds dear, including things that should have been left completely off the table. And yet, when Punk made his entrance on this particular night, something was immediately different. There was no smirk. There was no swagger. There was no look of smug satisfaction that Punk fans have come to know so well over the years. He walked through that crowd and into that ring looking like a man who had something genuinely heavy sitting on his chest, and he needed to put it down before he could move forward. Now let me take you back for a moment, because context is everything here, and if you want to fully appreciate what happened on Monday night, you need to understand just how far this feud had gone. CM Punk had spent months systematically taking apart Roman Reigns in the most personal ways imaginable. He called him a buck-toothed Nepo baby. He said that everything Roman had ever achieved had simply been handed to him because of his family name and his connections. He questioned the legitimacy of an entire career that Roman Reigns spent years building with his body and his blood. But none of that, none of the cheap shots or the personal jabs, none of that compared to the line that truly crossed into territory that left the entire wrestling world speechless. Punk looked Roman Reigns in the eyes and told him he was going to bury him right next to his father. That sentence hung in the air like something poisonous. The Henry family responded with fury that felt completely justified. Zilla Fatu made it crystal clear that those words would have consequences. The Usos demanded that Punk look them in the eye and apologize, and instead of doing so, Punk answered with his fists. For weeks, the conversation around this feud centered on one single question: had CM Punk finally gone too far this time? And then came Monday night, and everything shifted in a direction that absolutely nobody saw coming. Punk stepped into that ring, raised the microphone, and instead of delivering another calculated verbal assault, he did something that I genuinely believed this version of CM Punk was not capable of doing. He opened up. He said the words that nobody in that building, nobody watching at home, and honestly nobody in the wrestling business expected to come out of his mouth. He said, "I hate you because I envy you." Let that sink in for a moment. CM Punk, the man who built an entire legacy on being the one person in any room willing to say the brutally uncomfortable truth to everybody except himself, finally turned that honesty inward. He stood in front of Roman Reigns and admitted that the hatred he had been carrying all this time was rooted not in genuine contempt, but in envy. He envied the 1,316-day championship reign. He envied the WrestleMania main events. He envied the respect that Roman had earned at the very highest level of this industry. And most painfully of all, he admitted that deep down, he knew exactly how hard Roman Reigns had worked to achieve all of those things, and that knowledge made the envy burn even hotter. But then came the moment that truly stopped the show. The arena went completely quiet. Punk paused, looked Roman directly in the eyes, and said that Sika Henry was a great man, a great professional wrestler, a champion and a Hall of Famer, and that he was deeply sorry for invoking his name the way that he did. He said it was wrong. He said it plainly and without any of the usual verbal gymnastics that Punk typically uses to avoid full accountability. He just said it. A real, genuine, no-strings-attached apology from one of the most guarded and complicated personalities this industry has ever produced. And Roman Reigns stood there and listened to every single word. I want you to truly sit with the weight of that moment, because this is not something that happens in professional wrestling. CM Punk does not apologize. CM Punk does not show vulnerability. CM Punk does not hand his opponent any kind of emotional ammunition in the days leading up to the biggest match of the year. And yet there he was, stripping everything away and telling the truth in front of thousands of people and millions more watching at home. But what made this exchange so extraordinary was what Punk revealed about himself beyond just the apology. He talked about where he came from. He talked about growing up in Chicago, learning to love professional wrestling not in arenas or on television, but in backyards and alleyways, in VFW halls and bowling alleys, and abandoned church basements where the ring was barely held together and the crowd was barely a crowd. He talked about building a family out of the independent wrestling scene because he did not have the kind of family that Roman Reigns was born into. He said that he envied the dynasty. He envied the legacy. He envied the fact that Roman had a roadmap and a support system that Punk had to build himself from absolute zero, fighting and scratching for every single inch of the career that he now has. And here is where it gets even more powerful, because Roman Reigns did not stay silent. He responded, and what he said was something I genuinely did not expect either. Roman told Punk that he hated him too, but for the exact opposite reasons. Roman said that he envied Punk's connection with the people. He envied the way fans hold onto Punk, the way they carry him with them even through the years when he was gone. Roman said that he hoped when his time finally comes and he walks away from this business, that people will miss him even half as much as they missed CM Punk during his absence. In that one exchange, in those few genuine and unscripted feeling minutes, these two men who had been at war with each other and trying to destroy each other for months suddenly stopped being enemies and became something much more interesting. They became two men who finally understood each other completely. But Roman was not finished, and this is the part that has been living in my head since Monday night, because Roman Reigns had the final word, and he delivered it with the kind of cold, quiet confidence that reminds you exactly why he has been at the top of this industry for as long as he has. He looked CM Punk directly in the eyes and told him that this little nostalgia act, this experiment, was done. He said that on Sunday, they were going to fix the mess that Punk started. He said that on Sunday, the tribal chief takes back over, and that Punk, along with the entire world, would acknowledge him. There was no screaming in that delivery. There was no rage. There was no desperation. There was just the steady, unshakable belief of a man who had heard everything his opponent had to say, understood it completely, respected it even, and still believed with every fiber of his being that he was going to walk out of WrestleMania 42 as the winner. And the most telling part of all, CM Punk had nothing to say in response. He just stood there because he knew Roman was right. Here is what I think this all means going into WrestleMania 42. CM Punk did not apologize because someone told him to. He did not do it because Paul Heyman scripted it or because the situation demanded a calculated move. He apologized because after all the noise, after all the attacks and the words and the heat and the controversy, he stood across from Roman Reigns and recognized something true. For all of his talk over the years about being the voice of the voiceless, the man standing opposite him had genuinely earned everything he had. And in doing so, in offering that apology and that admission, Punk gave Roman Reigns the one thing Roman had been demanding throughout this entire rivalry. He acknowledged him, not with a raised finger, not under duress, but with real words that carried real weight. So now I want to hear from you, because this is the kind of moment that this community was built to talk about. Did that apology feel genuine to you, or do you think CM Punk had one more layer of manipulation underneath it all? And when the dust settles in Las Vegas at WrestleMania 42, who is walking out as the World Heavyweight Champion? Is it the Tribal Chief, or is it the best in the world? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because I read every single one of them, and I want to know where you stand. And if you want to be here for every moment, every twist, every deep dive into the real story behind what is happening inside that ring and outside of it, then subscribe to Wrestling Juice, hit that notification bell, and join this community that loves professional wrestling the way it deserves to be loved. Because after what we witnessed in Sacramento, I genuinely do not think any of us are truly prepared for what is about to happen in Las Vegas. I will see you in the next one.